In the third and final video of this series, we saved the best and most fun for last: how to plant a food plot.
Mossy Oak Properties, where outdoorsmen find their favorite place.
Now's the fun part. Now's when we get to play farmer, put seed in the ground, pray for rain, kick our feet up, feel good about ourselves.
It's that simple.
It's the end of this video.
Yeah.
On to the next.
All right. So, it would be great if that was reality, but it's not. It should be, right? But it's not. But what is the #1 thing that we should be doing before we plant any food plot?
Step one is to do a soil test.
Soil test. Here in my hand is what they call a soil probe. Now, this can be a little expensive, but basically you can go to Lowe's. You might even have one, oddly enough, in your garage or shed. It's called a shovel. You know, and basically what you're doing, in the quick and dirty version of it, is you're taking a core soil sample of your plot that you want to plant. Right. Yeah, you take that soil, you put it in a brown bag. Some people say put it in a Ziploc, airtight. Write down, I'm going to plant clover, write clover, you know, food plot 1, and you take it to your local equity, your co-op. Sometimes you can send it off to a college. They'll do it for free. There might be even a local a laboratory that you can send it off, and you can get really down to the nitty-gritty. But the key thing is you're going to get this report back. Now, sometimes this is why I think a lot of people don't like doing a soil test, is because of the report. It comes back with all these numbers and stuff like that, and it can be really confusing. It can be a little overwhelming. You said it well. I think that's why people kind of stay away from it, because they get the report back and they're not sure what to do next. The next step is. A soil test, as we're emphasizing, it's very important, almost necessary, and you're going to learn what steps you need to take to amend the soil to maximize the potential of whatever crop you're going to take. As Eric mentioned, if you're planting clover, write clover. You're going to get a report back, and if my co-op, when I send in a soil test, I do exactly what you said. I write my intended crop, and then they give me recommendations of lime and fertilizer based on what I'm planting, so I can digest that information and move forward to planting a successful food plot without having to wonder, what do I do? What does this number mean? Where do I go next? Yeah, and depending on where you send it is what type of report that you're going to get, okay? And if you don't know, what do? We ask questions. Right. Take it to your local co-op, your equity, even a farmer down the road, Farmer Bob. Walk up to him and go, what do I do? And someone's going to help you out. There's a lot of things on YouTube that you can go and actually teaches you how to do a correct soil sample, and we encourage you to do so. But please, we go to Bass Pro, we go and we spend all this money on a food plot seed mix that says 35% protein. If you don't do the proper preparation, it's not going to reach that, and proper fertilizer and lime is an important part of that preparation. Yeah, food plots are an investment, and it may seem easy to skip this test because without a soil test, you can still plant a food plot. Yes. Put seed on the ground, it rains, it'll grow, but it won't reach its full potential. And with food plots being an investment, invest in a soil test, which is relatively inexpensive. The lime and fertilizer can be expensive depending on how much you need to amend your soil, but it sets you up for success in the long term, which is what it's going to save you time and money in the big picture. So the next step, now that we got our soil sample and we got our lime and our fertilizer purchased and stuff like that, we went in there and we got a site. Let's say it's a field. We mowed off a section of the field. We're going to plant our little honey hole. Okay? Then we have all these flush of weeds from grasses and broadleaves. What is this stuff? What's the next step, Cody? To prepare a clean seed bed, we need to kill off that existing vegetation with herbicide. And is it that easy? It can be. Yeah, it can be. Now, there is a herbicide that a lot of people use, and it kills a lot of things, and that is glyphosate. Okay, but glyphosate doesn't kill necessarily everything. And that's you're gonna have to do a little bit of your homework sometimes, and there might be some weeds that glyphosate might set back, but not kill. Might kill the top, maybe not the root. And you'll learn that process as you go, unfortunately. But there's broadleaf killers out there called 2,4-D. There's 2,4-DB. It can be a little confusing and scary as well, not knowing what weeds and what herbicide to use, because if you use, the biggest thing to take away from this is use herbicide, kill the site. Okay, glyphosate, try that usually first, and then if you have some weeds, you know, that it didn't kill, maybe it is a broadleaf that glyphosate didn't kill, you can go in there and use that herbicide. But buyer beware, sprayer beware, because if you were going to plant a broadleaf type of food plot, like let's say brassica, dwarf Essex rape for example, and you spray the site with 2,4-D, which is a broadleaf killer, it has a residual in the soil. Cody, will it grow?
It will not.
It will not grow. We've learned that the hard way, unfortunately. But yeah, see, it's things like that. You know, we've been doing it for a long time. You're going to have successes. You're going to have failures. But the key thing on all this, the next step is to kill off the vegetation so you can have a clean seed bed.
Yeah, that clean seed bed is important because if you have competing weeds and vegetation, they're going to outcompete whatever crop you're going to plant. It's either just going to be a total failure, or you'll have a food plot full of weeds and then you'll be picking through it trying to find a clover here or there that didn't make it through. So that first step of burning off the vegetation with a herbicide like glyphosate, 2,4-D, whatever sets back the herbicide, kills it completely. You're going to start with a clean slate and give your intended crop the best chance to grow.
And how much do I put on? How many ounces per gallon? I hear people talk about that. It's all on the jug, on the label.
Right.
And make sure you do read the label, because this stuff can be expensive and every little drip counts anymore.
So now that we've sprayed the herbicide, killed off the existing vegetation, and have a clean seed bed to work with, now it's time to put seed in the ground and actually plant it. And what's cool is we have several different options to accomplish that. We can broadcast, depending on our seed type, we can broadcast seed directly on top of the ground. We'll usually do that with small seeds like clover or brassicas. We can disc or till to soften the soil, prepare a soft seed bed that the seed can settle into, get seed to soil contact and germinate that way. Or if you have a planter or a drill, a bigger tractor, more farm type equipment like that, you can seed directly into the ground without any soil disturbance.
And all that depends on what type of equipment that you have.
Yeah.
If you only have a four-wheeler, hey, you only have a four-wheeler or a side-by-side, you can get a lot accomplished with that by having a broadcaster. They make broadcasters for your UTV. Also some pull-behind drags to rough up the soil, you know, to get, and then a yard roller works great. They make cultipackers for four-wheelers and UTVs and to get that good seed to soil contact while broadcasting.
Yeah, that's the main thing. I mean, that's what planting is, getting seed within contact to the soil, getting moisture on it so that seed can grow, establish a root structure, start to pull nutrients, grow, photosynthesize, do its thing. We're not limited by any one option to accomplish that. We can drill directly into it, as we mentioned, if you have access to that equipment. If you don't, by no means do you need that. I have planted some wonderful food plots with a four-wheeler, and my first drag was a chain link fence that was cut up and disturbed the soil just enough to soften it, help the seed settle right before it rained, and I grew wonderful food plots that way. But the main thing is to establish a clean seed bed. First step is to kill off that existing vegetation and then seed to soil contact. When we mentioned broadcasting as an option, one that most people like to do is to disc or till.
So what is tilling? There's many implements that will help you accomplish that. And there's some that are like a 3-point rotavator. It's a machine that has a bunch of teeth that just grinds up the soil. And then there's also disking, which there's a 3-point, there's pull behind, there's hydraulic. All these things, all these implements will help you accomplish by basically turning the soil over to get that good seed to soil contact. And then lastly, there's the new thing that's out there, and that is no-tilling.
Yeah, and what's cool about no-till is I think a lot of people hear it and think you have to have a drill or a crimper or a planter to accomplish it. No-till is literally in the phrase. It means you're not tilling. You can broadcast into did thatch. That's no-tilling. That's no-till, it's a no-till food plot. So if you're into soil health and minimizing soil disturbance, retaining soil moisture, and maintaining the integrity of your soil, you don't have to have a drill or big tractors to practice no-till. You can burn down existing vegetation with a herbicide, seed directly into it, get good seed to soil contact. That thatch from the dead vegetation works as mulch, and that's also a no-till food plot.
Yeah, and then there is the actual implement, the no-till drill, that's what they call it. And that is a drill that will it'll make a slice in the soil, the seed drops into the thing, and it has compressing wheels that will get that good seed to soil contact. No tilling, no nothing. You know, herbicide, prep the site with herbicide and drill right through. And you can get seed specific, excuse me, that's a big word for me. you can get the right amount of seed per acre so you don't waste seed, and that's a really great thing. But if you don't have access to this equipment, whether it's an ATV, whether it's a UTV, all this material, all this equipment and stuff, don't let that stop you from planting a food plot, because don't let your limitations create a ceiling, because there are people out there that do this for a living that will help you with obviously a fee, help you plant food plots. Go to your farmer, ask him, hey, can you help me plant my food plots for me?
Yeah.
He might say yes, he or she might say yes. And if you don't have the right implements, there's plenty of rental places out there. No-till drills. A lot of your soil and water conservations, your NRCSs, do have no-till drills. Pheasants Forever type chapters sometimes have no-till drills, and the tractor to go with it.
Yeah.
You know, so don't let your limitations stop you from doing it. You just got to do a little research, got to do a little homework.
Yeah, we've given a lot of information in this video, from herbicides and equipment, implements, different planting methods, but you say this a lot, and I think it's important to remember that we're doing this for wildlife.
Oh,
that's the end goal.
yes.
This is for wildlife. If we have a couple weeds in the food plot, don't stress over it. If you have to disc your soil when you'd rather not have to, but you're still going to plant a successful food plot that way, that's worth doing.
Yes.
This is for food. This is for wildlife at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, we tend to put our OCD, I have it, where I want to weed free. Cody mentioned, you're going to have weeds. It doesn't matter if you herbicide and all that stuff. You do have the extra flush of weeds. You expect that stuff. And sometimes the weeds, hopefully, are weeds like ragweed and stuff like that are beneficial weeds to begin with.
Right.
That is 18% protein. You'll notice that they're eating that over your clover sometimes, you know. So yeah, you're going to fail. You're going to have weeds and all that stuff.
Absolutely, but as we mentioned, at the end of the day, this is for wildlife, and the steps that we mentioned in this video, from preparing the seed bed, doing a soil test, the equipment that you can make use of, from little hand seeders and hand rakes all the way up to big tractors and no-till drills, all of those tools, all of these steps can get you on your way to planting a successful food plot.
Mossy Oak Properties, where outdoorsmen find their favorite place.